Dear friends, Minister James Durdridge, Director Alex Vines, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you this morning. And thank you very much for taking your time to spend some time with us on the 40th anniversary of the independence of Angola. This is a very important date for the Angolan people and the Angolan government. Today we are celebrating not only in Angola but also in London. And may I thank you, Alex, for taking this initiative to invite people so that you can have time to spend with the Angolan ambassador in England, and everyone else who has been invited to this occasion. I believe that 40 years of independence of Angola is indeed an important date, which deserves an occasion like this one where we can discuss and share about what we think of these 40 years. In my view, I believe that the 40 years of independence of Angola is something that we should commemorate, but also it's something that makes us think of the course of history through which we have gone. In the last 40 years, we have gone through war. We have gone through difficult peace and wartime from 1991 to 2002, and then only from 2002 that we really do have peace in Angola. And so I think when you look at the 40 years, it means all this. War for 16 years, an environment of peace and war from 1992 to 2002, and peace, full peace, in the last 13 years. I believe that what the Angolans have achieved during these 40 years will be divided into all these three major periods of our history, where we have lived war, where we have had destruction, deaths, and a period of war and peace, where we have had both war and peace, and that's the period from 1991 to 2002. I believe that the experiences of this period are very bitter for many Angolans. And then the last 13 years where we have enjoyed peace among ourselves. And I've said that it's indeed very important to treasure these moments where the Angolan leadership, the Angolan people have tried to come together, have tried to build institutions based on the full process of reconciliation inspired by President dos Santos, which today gives us an environment of full peace when we look at the amount of realizations from the construction of schools, bridges, roads, railway lines, and so much more. The period of growth, economic growth, that has followed us from 2002 to today makes, in fact, of Angola a great country, and also inspires the new generations of how well we can be in the future if we consolidate the peace process, if we consolidate the reconciliation among Angolans. And I believe that's the way forward. These 40 years cannot be analyzed without looking at everything we've gone through during these 40 years, which means we have spent more time at war than time at peace. But the little time of peace has shown us that we have to consolidate peace, build on peace, and make Angola a great country. Angola came at independence at the highest point of the Cold War era between the Soviet Union and the Western world. And naturally, the options of our government at that time were the options of a full cooperation with the Soviet Union, which made a great contribution to the independence of Angola. And this has naturally influenced the political environment, political decisions that Angola has taken. It has also influenced the type of conflict that we lived during that time. While others, the Angolan government had an option with the Soviet Union, others had an option with the Western world, with the United States, with South Africa. And though that has had an impact, a terrible impact, particularly on the Angolan people for the first 16 years of our history, where many people died. And I think that the end of the conflict opened the options of the Angolan government. I think that the Angolan government opened itself to the world, saying, well, I fought, I was with the Soviet Union, but I am not only, I do not only belong to that world, I belong globally to the world. So good relations have been established since 1993 with the United States of America. Today, South Africa has changed. We no longer have apartheid in South Africa. We do have a government which we have always supported in its struggle for independence and for a better society where race was no longer the most important, where today we have blacks and whites living together. All these were some of the major battles in which the Angolan government was rightly involved and supported firmly the independence not only of South Africa but also of Namibia. So all these elements are part of the Angolan history, and in these 40 years we have actually stood firm with South Africa, the ANC. We have stood with SWAPO for the independence of those countries. And today we still stand together on a number of principles globally. Angola is today a member of the international community. We have established a relationship with all important and major countries. Well, naturally, a country like Britain has always had political presence in Angola. We have always kept a good relationship with Britain. And by the way, the Queen of England was one of the first people to recognize the electoral process in Angola and say that sanctions should have been lifted against the Angolan government. So it is very important in those terms, because in 1992 there were still people who were doubting about the political process in Angola. But I think that immediately in 1993 we had the recognition of the American government, and up till today we have kept all these relations. Our policy today, our international policy today, is to keep good relations with all major countries. Our relations are much higher and bigger with most of our Western partners, but they are as well good with our former Eastern countries. We do have good relations with China, with Russia, and I think that that's the major change in our international politics. We have now become members of the United Nations, actually since 1976, but we have in the last 10 years been on the Security Council, which means that we do identify ourselves as an international actor together with the international community. We are sensitive to all important issues that affect our societies, and we do believe, as other African partners, that it is indeed important that Africa should be on the Security Council. We believe also that 70 years after the Second World War, it is important that our relationship with the Western world, with the bigger powers as an Africa, should change. We have benefited a lot from the international relationship we have with all major players of the world, and I do believe that the future of Angola will be situated in that context. We do balance our relationship with the outside world. We believe that we need a world that is more peaceful, a world that allows the participation of countries like ours who can have an opportunity to be heard and an occasion to share our problems with the outside community. I think that our failures of the past are the fact that although we are all Angolans, we failed to recognize or to realize the importance of peace. And although this became so evident, I think that the contribution of President Dos Santos was very important to sign the Bicese agreements, to fulfill them, because I think one of the major issues why UNITA failed was that even if we had signed the agreements, UNITA was not ready or able to fulfill its commitments of that agreement. And then the importance of all this is that even with the non-fulfillment of UNITA, President Dos Santos stuck to the fulfillment of the agreements of Bicese and all others that came out after. And even after the war, President Dos Santos maintained the fulfillment of the agreement, keeping the dialogue with opposition and UNITA as extremely important. And this way we have been able to consolidate a democratic system, which I think is a great heritage for all Angolans. And now I believe that the future generations can build on what we have achieved as more important for the future. We do have a parliament which is stable, where parties participate and they can naturally contribute with ideas to the future of Angola. I think these are some of the achievements for the future of Angola.